Imagine this. You're sitting in your cozy living room, the one you've called home for decades, surrounded by memories of laughter, tears, and everything in between. The sun is setting outside, casting a warm glow through the windows. But inside, the air feels thick with tension. Your own son, the boy you raised with every ounce of love you had, stands before you with a cold look in his eyes. He says those words that cut deeper than any knife ever could. If you don't want to go to the nursing home, get a job. And there I was, at 68 years old, hearing my flesh and blood dismiss me like yesterday's news. But instead of breaking down, I smiled. Yes, I smiled, because little did he know, fate was about to pull up right outside our door. A car stopped and, well, let's just say, that moment changed everything. Let me take you back a bit so you understand how we got here. My name is Evelyn, and I've lived a life full of quiet sacrifices. I was born in a small town in Ohio, where hard work was the only way to get by. My parents were farmers, and from a young age I learned that family sticks together no matter what. I married young, to a kind man named Harold, and we built a life together. We had one son, Michael, who was the light of our world. Harold worked long hours at the factory to provide for us, and I stayed home, raising Michael, keeping the house, and even taking on sewing jobs from neighbors to help make ends meet. Those were happy days, filled with backyard barbecues, school plays, and late-night talks about dreams. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. Harold passed away 10 years ago from a sudden heart attack. It shattered me. Michael was already grown, married to his wife Lisa, and they had 2 kids of their own. I thought we'd grow closer after Harold's death, but instead things started to shift. Michael and Lisa moved into a bigger house in the suburbs, chasing that picture-perfect life. They invited me over less and less, and when they did, it felt like I was more of a babysitter than a grandmother. I'd cook meals, clean up after the grandkids, and listen to Lisa complain about her busy schedule. "Evelyn, you're a lifesaver," she'd say with a fake smile, but I could see the pity in her eyes. As the years went on, my health started to slip. Nothing major, just arthritis in my knees and a bit of forgetfulness here and there. But Michael began hinting about options for me. "Mom, have you thought about assisted living? It might be easier for you." I'd brush it off, saying I was fine in my home, the one Harold and I bought with our savings. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, filled with photos, knickknacks, and the echo of happier times. Deep down, I knew they saw me as a burden. Lisa would whisper things like, "She's getting too old to live alone," and Michael would nod along. Then came the day everything boiled over. It was a Sunday afternoon. Michael and Lisa had come over unannounced, which was unusual. They sat me down in the kitchen, the same table where I'd helped Michael with his homework as a kid. Michael cleared his throat and said, "Mom, we need to talk about your future." His voice was firm, like he was closing a business deal. Lisa sat beside him, her arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. He went on about how the house was too much for me to maintain, how the bills were piling up, even though I'd always paid my way. "We found a nice nursing home nearby," he said. "It's affordable and you'll have people to take care of you." I felt my heart sink. A nursing home? Me who had given everything for this family. I asked why they couldn't help more, maybe let me move in with them. Lisa jumped in then, her tone sharp. "Evelyn, we have our own lives. The kids are in school, Michael works long hours, and frankly, we can't afford to support you too." Afford? I'd loaned them money for their down payment on that fancy house. I'd babysat for free for years. But Michael sealed it. "If you don't want to go to the nursing home, get a job." "You're not helpless, Mom. Prove it." Those words hung in the air like a storm cloud. I could see the impatience in his eyes, the way he checked his watch. Lisa smirked a little as if she'd won some argument. I should have been furious, devastated even. But something inside me shifted. All those years of putting them first, and this was my thanks? I smiled, a small knowing smile that confused them both. "All right, son," I said calmly. "If that's how you feel." They left shortly after, probably thinking they'd scared me into submission. But as I sat there alone, staring out the window, I heard the crunch of gravel outside. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, a car I didn't recognize. The door opened, and out stepped a man in a sharp suit holding a briefcase. He walked up to my porch and knocked. Who was he? What did he want? Little did I know, this stranger was about to hand me the key to turning the tables. But before we get to that, let's dive deeper into how my world had crumbled leading up to this moment. As I opened the door to this mysterious visitor, my mind raced back to the cracks that had formed in my relationship with Michael over the years. It wasn't always like this. When he was little, we were inseparable. I'd read him bedtime stories, cheer at his soccer games, and save every penny for his college fund. Harold and I dreamed of him having a better life than we did. And he did. He became a successful accountant, married Lisa from a well-off family, and built that dream home. But success changed him, or maybe it was Lisa's influence. Lisa came from money, you see. Her parents owned a chain of stores, and she grew up with vacations and fancy cars. When she met Michael, she saw potential, but she also saw me as outdated. At first, it was subtle. She'd make comments about my house being quaint, or suggest I update my wardrobe. But after Harold died, it got worse. They'd borrow money and forget to pay it back. I'd offer to help with the grandkids, and they'd take advantage, leaving them with me for days without a thank you. One incident stands out. It was my granddaughter's birthday party 2 years ago. I'd baked a cake from scratch, just like I did for Michael as a kid. But Lisa turned her nose up at it. Oh, Evelyn, store-bought would have been fine. This looks homemade. The way she said it stung. Michael didn't defend me. He just laughed it off. That night, I cried myself to sleep, wondering where I'd gone wrong. The betrayals piled up. Last Christmas, they forgot to invite me until the last minute, and when I arrived, the gifts I'd carefully chosen were barely acknowledged. Lisa even suggested I sell my house to free up some cash for them to invest in a new business venture. Michael nodded along, saying it was for the family's future. My future? Apparently, that involved being shipped off somewhere I wouldn't be in the way. Back to that fateful afternoon. The man at the door introduced himself as Mr. Thompson, a lawyer from a firm in the city. Mrs. Evelyn Carter? He asked, glancing at his notes. I nodded, my heart pounding. What could this be about? An old debt? A mistake? He handed me an envelope. I'm here on behalf of your late Aunt Margaret. Aunt Margaret? I hadn't thought of her in years. She was my mother's sister, a reclusive woman who'd moved to California decades ago. We lost touch after my parents passed. Mr. Thompson explained that she'd died 6 months earlier, and in her will, she'd left me something unexpected, a small fortune from her investments, plus ownership of a cozy beach cottage she'd owned. But there was a catch. She'd stipulated that I use it to live my best life, whatever that meant. I was stunned. Why me? We'd barely spoken. But as Mr. Thompson talked, it hit me. Margaret had been alone, too, widowed young, no kids. Maybe she saw herself in me. The inheritance wasn't millions, but it was enough, $250,000, plus the cottage valued at another $300,000. Enough to change everything. As he drove away, I sat at the kitchen table, the envelope in my hands. My smile from earlier, it grew wider. Michael thought I was helpless, but now I had options. I didn't tell him right away. No, I let the sting of his words fuel me. Over the next few weeks, I started planning. I cashed the check quietly, fixed up my house a bit, and even took a trip to the beach to see the cottage. It was perfect. Ocean views, a garden, peace. But the betrayal wasn't over. Michael called a week later, pressuring me about the nursing home. Mom, we toured it. It's great. Sign the papers. I played along, sounding defeated. Inside, anger simmered. How could he discard me so easily? Sadness washed over me, too, for the boy he used to be. Shock at how blind I'd been. But now, with this windfall, I could plot my revenge. Not to hurt him, but to show him what he'd lost. To make him regret. What would I do? Sell the house and disappear? Cut him off? Or something more clever? Hang on, because the plan was just forming, and it was going to be sweet. With the inheritance secure in my bank account, I felt a spark I hadn't known in years. It was like waking up from a long sleep. Michael's words echoed in my head. Get a job. Oh, I would do better than that. But first, I needed to let the wound heal a bit, to think clearly. Revenge isn't about rash actions. It's about timing, about making them see the error of their ways without saying a word. I started small. I enrolled in online classes. Nothing fancy, just courses on real estate and investing. Aunt Margaret's money came from smart choices, and I wanted to honor that. I learned how to flip properties, manage rentals. The beach cottage? I decided to rent it out part-time, turning it into an income stream. Within months, I had steady checks coming in. I also got a part-time job at the local library, shelving books and helping with story hours for kids. It wasn't much, but it gave me purpose, and the irony? Michael had told me to get a job, and here I was, thriving. But the real plan brewed when I overheard Lisa bragging at a family gathering. Michael had dragged me to one last obligation event before pushing the nursing home papers. Lisa was telling friends how they'd soon have extra space once I was settled. It fueled my fire. I decided I'd pretend to agree to the nursing home, let them think they'd won, then vanish into my new life. But not before exposing their greed. I hired a private investigator, yes, with my new funds, to dig into Michael's finances. Turns out they were in debt up to their ears. That business venture Lisa mentioned? A failed investment. They'd been counting on my house sale to bail them out, assuming I'd hand over the proceeds. The betrayal deepened. All those hints weren't about my well-being. It was about their wallet. Sadness hit me hard during those planning days. I'd sit in my garden, tears flowing, remembering Michael's first steps, his graduation. How did we get here? Anger followed, at Lisa for poisoning him, at him for letting her. But shock turned to determination. I'd show them independence. The plan: I'd sign fake papers for the nursing home, with my lawyer's help, making them non-binding. Then I'd announce a farewell dinner at my house. During it, I'd reveal the inheritance, the cottage, my job, everything. But with a twist. I'd cut them out of my will entirely, leaving everything to charity or the grandkids directly. Let them crawl back begging. As weeks turned to months, I transformed. I lost weight from walks on the beach, made new friends at the library. My house sparkled with updates. Michael called occasionally, pushing the move. Mom, it's for the best. I'd agree weakly, building suspense. One evening, as I sipped tea on my porch, watching the sunset, I felt relief creeping in. No more being a doormat. The climax was coming, the dinner where everything would explode. Would they apologize? Beg or double down? I couldn't wait to find out. But hold on, because when that night arrived, it was more dramatic than I ever imagined. The night of the farewell dinner finally came. I'd invited Michael, Lisa, and the grandkids over, telling them it was to say goodbye before the big move to the nursing home. My house was spotless, the table set with Harold's favorite china. I'd cooked a feast, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, apple pie, just like old times. But inside, my heart raced with anticipation. This was it, the moment they'd learn the truth. They arrived on time for once. Michael looked relieved, Lisa smug. The kids, sweet as ever, hugged me tight. Grandma, do you have to go? Little Emma asked. I smiled and said, We'll see, honey. We sat down to eat, small talk filling the air. Lisa complimented the food half-heartedly. Michael checked his phone. Midway through, I cleared my throat. Before we finish, I have something to share. They leaned in, expecting tears or pleas. Instead, I pulled out the envelope from Mr. Thompson. A few months ago, after our last talk, a lawyer showed up. My Aunt Margaret left me an inheritance, a lot of money and a beach cottage. Their faces froze. Michael's fork clattered. What? Aunt who? I explained calmly, watching Lisa's eyes widen with greed. I've invested it wisely. Rented the cottage, got a job at the library. I'm not going to any nursing home. In fact, I'm moving to the beach next month. Shock rippled across the table. Michael stammered. Mom, that's great, but why didn't you tell us? I looked him dead in the eyes. Because you made it clear I was a burden. Get a job, you said. Well, I did. And more, Lisa jumped in, her voice shaky. Evelyn, this changes things. We could use some help with our debts. Family helps family, right? There it was, the truth. I revealed what the investigator found. Their financial mess. How they'd planned to sell my house for themselves. Michael turned red, denying at first, then crumbling. Mom, we were desperate. I'm sorry. Tears welled in his eyes. Lisa looked exposed, speechless for once. The kids watched wide-eyed as I stood tall. You've betrayed me for years, taking, never giving back. But I'm done. The climax peaked when I handed them papers, my updated will. Everything went to the Grandkids Trust and a charity for widows. You get nothing, I said firmly. Michael begged, please, Mom, don't do this. Lisa tried to argue, but I shut her down. You wanted me out of the way. Now I am. They left that night defeated, suitcases of excuses in tow, crawling out the door with regrets. I watched from the porch, a mix of sadness and relief washing over me. Had I gone too far? No, this was justice. But the story doesn't end there. Healing was just beginning. In the days after the dinner, silence fell over my phone. No calls from Michael, no texts from Lisa. Part of me ached. The mother in me missed my son. But another part felt free, like a weight lifted. I packed up my house, sold what I didn't need, and moved to the beach cottage. The ocean waves became my daily soundtrack, washing away years of hurt. Weeks later, a knock at my door. It was Michael, alone, looking humbled. Mom, I was wrong. Lisa and we've been fighting. She pushed me to say those things, but that's no excuse. I miss you. Tears streamed down his face. I let him in, and we talked for hours. He admitted the debts, the pressure, how he'd lost sight of family. Lisa had left him temporarily, taking the kids to her parents. I see now what I did to you, he said. Forgiveness didn't come easy, but it came. I helped him a little, not with money, but advice. He got a second job, started therapy. Slowly we rebuilt. The grandkids visited often, filling the cottage with laughter. Lisa? She apologized eventually, but our bond stayed distant. Michael learned to stand on his own. Looking back, that car stopping outside my house was a turning point. It wasn't just money. It was a reminder of my worth. Betrayal stings, but revenge, done right, teaches. I didn't destroy them. I exposed the truth and rose above. The moral? Family is precious, but don't let anyone dim your light. Stand up for yourself, especially when they push you down. Life can surprise you with second chances, but only if you're open to them. If you're facing something similar, remember, your story isn't over. Smile, because a car might just stop and change everything.